From the U.S., we now head on to Russia, where voters head to polling stations in Russia on Friday, March 15, 2024, to cast ballots in the presidential election. How is President Vladimir Putin preparing his campaign for the election? TVRI World have the highlights from Vladimir Putin's interview to Rossiya Segonya, news agency general director Dmitry Kiselyov, for you, courtesy of RT International.
From a military technical point of view, of course, we are ready. We have troops in a constant state of combat readiness. It is also a universally recognized thing. Our nuclear triad is more modern than any other triad, and only we and the Americans actually have such a triad. We have advanced much more here. Ours is more modern, the entire nuclear component. But this does not mean that we should measure ourselves by the number of carriers and warheads. And those who need to know, I repeat, experts, specialists, and the military, they know it well. They are now setting the task of increasing this modernity, and they have plans to do so. We are also aware of this. They are developing all their components, and so are we. But this does not mean that, in my opinion, they are ready to unleash this nuclear war tomorrow. If they want to, what can we do? We are ready.
Мы не вмешиваемся никак, ни в какие выборы.
We do not interfere in any kind of elections, and as I have said many times, we will work with any leader who the American people, the American voter, will give confidence to. But here's what's interesting. Even during the last year of his work as president, Mr. Trump, today's presidential candidate, reproached me for precisely the fact that I was sympathizing with Biden. This was more than 4 years ago. He told me so in one of our conversations. Sorry, I'll say it like he did. These are his direct words. You want Sleepy Joe to win. He told me this when he was president. And then, to my surprise, they began to persecute him because we allegedly supported him as a candidate. Well, it's some kind of complete nonsense. As for today's pre-election situation, it is becoming increasingly uncivilized. I would not like to give any comments on this matter. But it's absolutely clear, I think it's obvious to everyone, that the American political system cannot claim to be democratic in every sense of the word.
If we return to Macron, maybe he decided to take revenge on Russia by making such statements for the fact that we stepped on his tail in Africa. But we had to stand there and be afraid. He probably didn't expect us to be so active there.
Yes, I think there is some resentment, but when we were in direct contact with him, we spoke frankly enough about this issue. We did not meddle in Africa, and we did not squeeze France out of there. The problem is different. The well-known Wagner Group first carried out a number of economic projects in Syria, then moved to other countries in Africa. The Ministry of Defense provides support, but only on the basis that it is a Russian group, nothing more. We did not squeeze anyone out. It's just that the African leaders of some countries agreed with Russian economic operators. They wanted to work with them. They didn't want to work with the French in some respects. It was not even our initiative. It was the initiative of our African friends. It is not clear why we should be offended in this regard. If an independent state wants to develop relations with its partners from other countries, including Russia, it wants to develop relations with Russia. We did not do anything with them, the former French colonizers. I even say this without irony, because in many countries where France has historically been a metropolis, they don't really want to deal with them. It has nothing to do with us. Perhaps it's more convenient to take offense at someone without seeing your own problems. Maybe such a sharp, rather emotional reaction on the part of the French president is also connected with what is happening in some African states. Although I know other African countries where they are calm about the French remaining there and say that, yes, it suits us, we are ready to work with them. But in some countries they don't want to. It has nothing to do with us. We are not instigating anyone there. We are not setting anyone against France. We do not set ourselves such tasks. To be honest, we don't have any such statewide national tasks at the level of the Russian state. We are just friends with them, that's all. I don't feel like I'm some sort of master of the world's destinies. Believe me, not even close. I am simply doing my duty to Russia and to our people who regard Russia as their homeland. As for other countries of the world, it is very closely related to how we are treated around the world. This is interesting. It is such a phenomenon, that's for sure. What I would like to draw attention to, many people in the world look at us, at what is happening in our country and in our struggle for our interests. This, in my opinion, is what is important. Why is this happening? Not because we are formally members of BRICS or we have some traditional relations with Africa. That is also important, but the point, in my opinion, is quite different. The point is that this so-called golden billion has been practically a parasite on other nations for centuries, 500 years. They've been tearing apart the poor peoples of Africa. They've been exploiting Latin America, they've been exploiting the countries of Asia, and they certainly haven't forgotten that. I have the feeling that it is not even the leadership of these countries, although it is very important, but the ordinary citizens of these countries feel in their hearts what is happening. They associate our struggle for their independence and true sovereignty with their aspirations for their own sovereignty and independent development. But this is compounded by the fact that the desire to freeze the existing unjust state of affairs in international affairs is very strong in Western elites. They are used to filling their bellies with human flesh and their pockets with money for centuries. But they must realize that the vampire ball is ending.